Hey everyone, and welcome to my Man of Steel review. I'm really excited to do this, especially since tomorrow I'm finally seeing a movie that I think we've all been waiting for a long time, which is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Now, just before I go into the review, I would just like to say I know Man of Steel is a very divided and controversial film. Half of the people love it, half of the people hate it. So yesterday, in honor of the new film, I rewatched Man of Steel and I analyzed it bit by bit to see if I can get anything good out of it. So let's dive right into the review. So right off the bat, when the film starts, it just looks incredible. I love how Krypton looks. It looks fantastic. It's so unique sci-fi. But to be honest, it looks a little bit like Pandora from Avatar. Like, seriously, I thought blue cat people were gonna merge somewhere behind a mountain or something. It looked like very similar. I could tell Zack Snyder was a fan of that movie. And not to mention, the opening scene is epic. Like, how do you start an action movie? You start off with a war on an alien planet, and it just looks beautiful, all the action. And I noticed that, like I said, the creatures remind me of Avatar a bit. But I always contended, like, what would you rather have him riding? Like, that's cool no matter what. Like, the weird flying wing thing, yeah, I know it looks like the blue bird from Avatar, but it looks pretty good to me. It really worked well, I thought, for the film. And also, I love how the film has some weird sci-fi elements, like the technology of the Kryptonians. I love how it's clearly technology, but it looks somewhat organic. You know what I mean? Like, everything looks like it could be alive somewhat. But also, another thing I noticed is that some of Krypton's tech, while it looks organic and unique, it looks pretty silly too. Like the weird, what do you call it? The things, like, they look like pins that you would put your face through, You had those as a kid. I'll put up an image. You know what I'm talking about, right? And Russell Crowe, I think, in this film does a great job as Superman's Kryptonian father, Jor-El. Jor-El, you can clearly see, is trying to tell his planet's leaders that, look, the core of Krypton is collapsing, the world is going to be destroyed, but they're idiots. And you can see Jor-El is a very wise, very smart person. And also, might I add, Russell Crowe just kicks ass in this opening scene. Every single fight scene that Jor-El is in, especially a fight scene between Zod, he's just like sucker punching the dude. Jor-El is a badass. And then all of a sudden General Zod walks in and he starts killing all these leaders. And when you first see this film, you might think, oh, he's just a generic bad guy. But after multiple viewings, you go, wait a second. He's doing the right thing, right? He's putting an end to these idiots and he's trying to save the world, essentially. That's a unique perspective on the General Zod character. I always thought that it was really unique because instead of having him just be, I'm intentionally evil like most villains we see, General Zod, from his point of view, is doing the good thing. He's trying to save his world. He's trying to save his culture, his people. So you get to see from the villain's perspective, and Michael Shannon and Zack Snyder actually made a really good comment, which is, no one is the villain in their own eyes. And the General Zod character is clearly a good representation of that quote. And I love throughout the opening scene, you can see that General Zod is clearly a man who respects Jor-El. He trusts Jor-El. You can clearly see they're like friends from the past. But they are torn apart by difference of opinion. Jor-El wants to take the Codex, which contains all of Krypton's heirs, all its history and all that, and put it in his son, so Krypton can live through him essentially, and send his son off to some distant planet. Whereas Zod wants to take the Codex for himself and completely start brand new. But the thing about Zod is he only wants the bloodlines he deems worthy in order to make sure that none of the mistakes that happened beforehand will happen again. Another good thing that the film handled well, I think, is when Jor and Laura-El are sending Superman, baby Kal-El, off into space. You can feel like the heartbreaking emotion, like they don't want to do it, but they have to do it. And I love how, like, when Jor-El reveals to Zod after he breaks into his home, obviously, that Kal-El has the Codex within him, right? I love how you can see on Zod's face that he's like literally terrified of this concept. And like later on when he's being like put into the Phantom Zone and all that, you can see that, well, he basically said it. He says he's going to find him no matter what. There's nothing that will stop him from finding the Codex and saving his race. And I think another scene that really is good, even though I commented on it earlier again, was that fight between Jor and Zod. I thought it was really good. You could feel the emotion in it, and it was well choreographed. It was just fun for me to watch. And I love how when it shows how after Kal-El is launched into space, obviously, how it shows you like how crazy Zod is, because it's already ruined his plan. Jor is not even attacking him or nothing. Zod is just on the ground. And for no reason whatsoever, Zod just decides to pull out his weapon and stab Jor-El in the stomach. For no reason whatsoever. And it kind of like makes him crazy somewhat if you think about it, because later on in the film when Zod is explaining to Kal-El that when he killed his father he had to do it, but really when I watched it again I was like, no you didn't. You know, because he didn't need to kill him. Jor-El didn't do nothing, he was just standing there. He didn't need to kill the guy. When we see like Zod and his crew being imprisoned in the Phantom Zone, it was like really cool, like I said earlier, to see how determined he was to find the Codex, but I just gotta add it. How did this get unnoticed? The capsules that they're in look like dildos, okay? They look like penises. How did Zack Snyder or no one notice that? Did they purposely do it? I have no idea. That's a penis, I'm sorry. Like, again, like, what's up with this Kryptonian technology? Do they have, like, weird fetishes? Like, it's just weird, some of the technology on Krypton. Also, like, let's get into the end of Krypton. When Krypton is about to explode, right? It's about to, like, collapse within itself. That's like a very heartbreaking and emotional scene. Like, you can see Jor-El mourning over the loss of her husband, obviously. And it's just heartbreaking when you see the world collapsing and she just looks up at the stars and she says, make a better world than ours, Kal. And also, when you see Superman about to land on Earth, you first of all, you think, oh, no, this is a scene where they're going to find him, you know, they're going to raise him, do a montage of childhood. But no, I like how it cuts to, immediately before he crashes, it cuts to the boat scene, right? Where grown-up Clark Kent is on the boat working as like a fisherman or something. And I like how they just cut to that because we already know Superman's origin. Everyone does. We know Pa and Ma Kent find him. They raise him. He discovers he has super abilities. So we cut to the boat and you can tell that Clark is hiding. You can see the expression on his face that he's a man on the run, you know? And also throughout the film, you see that he's taken on different identities. You know, he's traveled from place to place, trying to find out who he is, but also hiding from who he is. But also, the scene on the boat is a great scene because I just love the ocean rescue, you know, when like the guys are on the thing and Superman comes to save them. And it just shows how determined Superman is, you know. It just shows right off the bat, this is Superman. He's a hero no matter what, even if he's in hiding. But the one thing I didn't understand about this is how come Superman's hair doesn't, like, burn off in the fire? You know what I mean? Like, if it's hair, it would burn, right? You clearly see him on fire, but none of his hair is burning off. And yet, how is Superman able to, like, cut his hair and stuff and shave if, you know, if his hair is indestructible? And after the thing blows up, I love how there's just a shot of Superman resting in the ocean. He's just thinking about it. And then you cut to a flashback of his childhood, right? He's in the schoolhouse with his teacher, and I like how this is the first time we see how Superman's powers might affect a little child if they had it. Like, they literally show how terrifying it would be to be able to, like, see through someone or, like, hear everything, have super sight, super hearing. And that would make someone very insecure, and because of that insecurity, they might not be like as popular as other kids. Kids might think of them as like a weirdo or freak. And it really like touched on the fact that's how Superman grew up, you know. He grew up kind of scared. He grew up as an outcast. It really adds more dimension to the character of Clark Kent. Then they cut to another flashback, and the flashbacks I've noticed so far are really good in this movie. This flashback shows Superman's morality. He's being made fun of this bully on the bus. He's calling him asswipe. He's calling him dick splash. Just being mean on him. And then the bus goes under, and of course Superman, it shows morality. Of course Superman is going to save the bus full of kids, but he didn't have to go back for the bully, and I like how he particularly goes back into the water after saving the bus, and he takes out this kid who bullies him, basically torments him, and he's basically like giving him a hand up, and that just shows you how morally right Superman is. Like, Superman, it established that he is absolutely good no matter what. He's the Boy Scout. He will constantly do good no matter what happens. Also, how great is that scene afterwards where Pa Kent is talking to Clark on the truck, and Clark was like, what am I supposed to do? Just let them die. And normally in a Hollywood movie they would be like, oh no, of course not, but you can see Pa Kent is concerned for Clark, and he doesn't want to say he should have let them die, so he's just like, I don't know, maybe. And it's of course a scene where Pa Kent reveals to Clark that he's in fact an alien being from another world. And that's the point of the movie where you can really see how Clark set off on the path to find out who he is and where he came from. And then we get to the diner scene, and I love this scene because it just shows how tolerant Superman is too. Like, the guy like pushes him, throws beer on him, and Superman could easily take him out like that, but he restrains himself. And even if he did kick the crap out of the guy, you know, people would clearly say, oh, he's clearly like a ginormous dude. Of course he could easily do that. But Superman still chooses to restrain himself. And while I love this scene, there's like a stupid thing in it. How come the guy cannot push Superman in this scene, right? He can't push Clark. But how come the other guy, when the fish trap thing was going to fall on him on the boat, he pushes him out of the way? That's just like another continuity error that I don't really understand or get. And also, like, when the guy goes outside, while it is funny to see like the truck like being smashed and stuff, and it's completely destroyed, he discovers that. How did no one hear that? Like, there's no way that would not make any sound whatsoever. You would hear every single bit of it, especially if it's like literally right outside in the parking lot. And of course we get to the scene where Clark is going through the spaceship, the thousands of years old, and there's this like thing that bothers me. I think that like Jor-El as a whole, the hologram Jor-El, looks pretty stupid. Like, not to crap on it, I love Russell Crowe in that role. It's just that like it looks kind of dumb, you know, like the fact that he's like walking around as a hologram, a consciousness, I don't know, it just always bugged me a bit. But also, watching through this movie, the scenes with Superman talking to Jor-El and stuff and discovering who he is, I love how like throughout the whole film, with the score and everything, and like the quiet moments where he's just sitting down and talking to people, they portray Superman in a poetic way, you know, like they treat it with a lot of respect, the character, and they just make a beauty out of this character. They just portray him perfectly. You get the sense of who the character is, what his struggles are, what he's dealing with and stuff. It's just beautifully portrayed. And of course, there's this wonderful scene in the movie where Superman gets his suit from his father for the first time, right? And he's learning how to fly, and like, it's just a beautiful scene, the way it's shot and the music that's playing. And I love how when Superman is flying, the sound effect that they add is the classic like Superman sound effect from the 50s show where it's like wind whistling and stuff like that. It was just one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. And here's like some problem I've had with the film too. There's a scene, I love how Clark Kent explains to Lois like verbally how he like keeps himself a secret, you know, but when they showed him his father dying, I thought it was like in the most ridiculous way. Like, how can we show his father dying? Let's just have a tornado just appear out of nowhere. I thought that was kind of ridiculous. And also, like, when he tells him to get to the bridge, I'm like, why would he go to the bridge? Haven't you heard of the wind tunnel effect? And if you don't know that, if you go under the tunnel during a tornado, it actually increases the wind speed, so that doesn't work. And how come they just, even though Superman was told by his father to stay back, why wouldn't Superman still just, like, ignore him and go straight into the tornado, saving him? Or at least have Superman get the dog for him by himself while Pa Kent went to the bridge. It could have been, like, easily resolved. But I do think, like, when Clark was gonna save him, I do like the fact, even though I'm kind of contradicting myself here, how Pa Kent just stopped him like this. Like, he's willing to sacrifice himself until the world is ready to see him. And that's another thing I really love about this film. I love how everyone who knows about Superman's existence, like treat it so realistically. Like, how would we react if there was a man who was completely invincible, who could fly, who is essentially a god? Like, how could... that would, like, turn the world inside and out. We find out he's an alien. That would, like, change religion, religious beliefs. That would change the way we think about humanity. That would change the way we think about the universe as a whole. It would cause a lot of insanity to occur, I'm sure. Like, they actually dive into questions like that, which is very interesting to me. And let's just talk about the action in this movie. I think it's great. I think it's well choreographed and fun to watch, definitely. There's, like, a lot of destruction in Smallville and Metropolis and all that. But the only problem that I have about the action scenes is that the CGI at a lot of times for me looks, like, really fake. You know, like, you can tell, like, it's computer animated. It doesn't look that good sometimes. That's, like, my one complaint about the action scenes. Like I said, with the action, the visuals in this film alone are, like, incredible. Like, there's certain scenes in this film that I would frame up on a wall, you know? Like, they just look breathtaking. And I also really liked in this film Henry Cavill's portrayal as Superman. And I'm not saying he's better than Christopher Reeve, but he's definitely, you can tell, like, he humanized Superman. He made Superman relatable for me, which is very hard to do considering Superman is a god, you know? And let me tell you, Zod's chick, I don't know what her name is. I'm just going to call her Zod's chick from now on, because she's like the girl member on Zod's team. She is a badass in this movie. She's taking out dudes left and right. And I don't know, there's at points in this film where I thought, like, Superman was actually gonna die, probably. And when we get towards the end and you see the World Engine destroying Metropolis, it's a horrific scene. Like, a lot of people didn't know this, but, like, when you pay close attention and you see all the objects getting lifted up in the air, right? You could actually see on the Blu-ray that actual people are being lifted up, and it's very horrific. I'm surprised they let that go in a PG-13 movie, because you literally see people lifted up in the air, like actual human bodies, and then, like, dropped, like, thousands of feet. It's, like, horrific to watch. And then, of course, there's a scene where I thought wasn't really needed when Superman's fighting the weird, you know, tentacle monster on the other side of the world. I thought they could have, like, cut that from the film. Like, it just dragged on. It didn't really serve a purpose for me. And I just wanted them to get back to Metropolis, right, where all the good stuff was happening. I wanted to get Superman to fight Zod at toe-to-toe. And after, of course, Superman saves the day, right, he destroys the World Power Engine, he destroys it, and all the other Kryptonians are dead except for Zod, right? I love that scene where you see Zod finally break down, and this is where the controversial ending happens. Where Zod finally breaks down, right? And he basically says, I was bred to be a leader of my people, right? I was bred, my sole purpose was to ensure the survival of my people. And you took that away from me. And Zod basically clearly says, now I will take them from you. So, basically, when I look at it, when they're fighting and stuff, Superman had no choice, okay? A lot of people get pissed off, like, why didn't Superman save people? Why did he cause so much destruction when fighting Zod? And, like, John Campea from Collider put it perfectly, right? He said, when you're in a bar fight, you're not worried about wrecking the bar. And you see what I mean? Take this for example. Say you were to come in my house, right? You were determined to kill me and everyone I love. Am I worried about making sure my TV is not wrecked or my collectibles on my shelf? Am I worried like that they're perfectly neat and organized and that nothing happens to them? No, I'm worried about kicking your ass and saving the people around me. That's what I'm worried about. And like, that's like what really bugs me when people say, oh, he could have saved people. No, he couldn't. How can you save someone when a super being god is coming at you and literally is trying to murder you? Like, how... It doesn't make sense. Superman did the right thing. He couldn't help it, guys. He couldn't help it. And then, of course, we get at the end, and of course the fight scene is great. I love, like, the double punch. And then you go up into space, they hit the Wayne Tower, Batman reference, it was cool to see. But then we get to the very controversial ending, where Superman has Zod in the Deathlock, right? He's holding him by the head and the neck. And Zod has his laser beams out, and he's, like, aiming it at like, a family, basically, right? And Superman's begging him to stop. Literally, Superman didn't want to kill Zod, people. He was begging him to stop. And Zod literally said, never. And this is a controversial ending, which I don't know why. Superman literally had no choice but to kill Zod, but to snap his neck. Zod basically flat out told him, I will never stop at destroying this planet. I will never stop at destroying the human race. I will constantly, no matter what you do, for the rest of my life, I will do anything to destroy him. What else was Superman supposed to do but crack that psycho's neck and just take him out for good? And it's not like Superman wanted to do it. He begged him to not do it, right? And I love how at the end, Superman is just like freaking out. Like, he literally screams because he just killed the last Kryptonian. He hated what he did. Like, and I still don't understand why people get pissed off about that ending. I'm like, what was he supposed to do? Given the situation. Like, it just bothers me, some people. And I'm not saying, like, you're wrong for having your opinion. Have your opinion. It's fine. It's completely fine. If you don't like Man of Steel, good. Good for you. Film is subjective. It's an art form. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just saying my personal opinion, and I'm just saying the way I viewed it, the way I experienced, that's just what I got from it. But overall, when I watched Man of Steel, I literally analyzed the movie from start to finish, and I noticed the more and more I watch this movie, the more and more I like it, the more and more it intrigues me, and the more and more I discover within it. And I know it currently sits at a 56% Rotten Tomatoes, and I honestly can't tell why a lot of people hate on this movie. I know it's a darker Superman, I know it's not the classic Christopher Reeve, like, all colorful, bright, and happy Superman, but I thought that this was a very interesting look at the character of Superman. This made him a human character. This made you understand and relate to Superman, someone who a lot of people have a hard time relating to. And, of course, this has great action. It has great acting. It's just a great story overall, too. It runs smoothly. You think it would be jagged storytelling if you keep doing, like, scene, then flashback, but no, it all runs smoothly, correctly, and overall, I just think personally, Man of Steel is a masterpiece of a film. Yes, I said it, masterpiece. I freaking love this movie. It has some problems though, so I can't give it a perfect rating, but overall, guys, I give Man of Steel 4 out of 5 stars. It's a great movie. I would highly recommend doing it, especially because Batman v Superman comes out tomorrow. So anyways, that's my review for Man of Steel. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you didn't agree with me, or did agree with me, or had some different opinions, please leave it in the comment section below. I'd love to read that. Please like and subscribe. Anyways, thanks for watching. Peace.